Should turn this off.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is your host, Sandeep Pednekar, and you're watching One Universe, the show based on the nonprofit One Universe that fosters positivity through the promotion of love, peace, and harmony. And to talk about that fostering of positivity, we are here with Dr. Mark Weiss, and he is going to be talking about his service in providing advice uh, in marriage and family therapy. So, welcome, Dr. Weiss. How are you?
Thank you. Good.
So, for the benefit of our listeners, please introduce yourself, where you were born, and your family roots.
I was born in New York, in Elmhurst, Long Island, in Queens,
Mhm.
and that was 1941. Um, I lived there for 13 years. I went to public school 89, and then from there we moved to California. My father got a job out there, and in LA, I went to Hawthorne High School, where they had a gifted program, which was life-changing for me. Up until then, I thought I was a little crazy, but I suddenly
Okay.
discovered 15 other kids that were just as crazy as I was.
Okay.
It was very comforting and helpful.
Okay.
Um, I went then to Valley Junior College in the San Fernando Valley in Los Angeles,
Mhm.
where they had the number one jazz big band in the country. And I played with that band, studied jazz. I also took courses. I was very interested in fact, I even hired the teacher in philosophy to meet with us every, about once every week to discuss philosophy.
Hmm.
Um, from there, I went to California State University in Northridge, California, in the
Okay.
Valley. And and it was there that I kind of got ignited by watching the events happening in Alabama when the dogs were being sicked on people, on black people,
Mhm.
and it activated something in me that came out of my history with my parents, who were both socialists and and in fact kind of borderline communists at the time, which was communism was a much more benign thing at the time.
Mhm.
Um, but I always had a message from my father that said, your goal here is to make a contribution. And I think I internalized that whole and let it be a guide for my life.
Wow.
From there, I went to San Francisco and got my. I spent a year in a stock brokerage of all places. That was very instructive, but I had had pains in my feet, and it turned into arthritis, and I got worse and worse until finally I had to leave there and move to Monterey, California,
Mhm.
and then from there back to LA, where I was uh, in bed for 6 months in pretty much excruciating pain,
Oh no.
misdiagnosed, um, and finally got back and went back to junior college and got my associate's degree. Went to Cal State University of Northridge and got my bachelor's. And then from there, I started studying with a man who was from Calcutta. Studied with him for a couple of years, learning Vedanta and some things about yoga.
Wow.
I was very, uh, I, I was very devoted in that process. Sometimes overly devoted, not to my benefit.
I see.
And finally separated from him
Mhm.
in a rather unpleasant way.
Okay. Sorry to know that.
I had been married to Cheryl, now Cheryl Abbott is her name. She was an extraordinarily wonderful person. And when I entered into my interest in the civil rights movement, it all happened quite suddenly. I saw these dogs attacking people. I realized that something had to be done. 2 weeks later, I was preparing, I had staged enough parties to raise 2,000 pounds in clothing and food and $2,000 to take with me to Clarksdale, Mississippi. I had a friend of mine that was there for Freedom Summer. I came in at the end of Freedom Summer and stayed 6 months on my own in Clarksdale.
Wow.
So that whole process, Cheryl was very involved with that. And after I came back, on the way to going there, I was approached by a social psychology teacher who said, "You've got to listen to this tape." And it was a recording of 5 men at Camarillo State Hospital, 5 psychologists, who developed a method they called accelerated interaction. It later came to be called the marathon group.
Okay.
Because it was started on Friday at 7 o'clock, went till midnight, started again 7 or 8 in the morning, continued on, and then on Sunday from about 7 until 5. Extremely powerful. And I decided right then and there I was going to learn how to do this and go back to Mississippi and use it with a youth group that I had met. And I even offered it to some of the leaders in the civil rights movement, like Stokely Carmichael.
Okay.
It was not well received by him, but the well had been poisoned by somebody else. At any rate, I did do marathon groups with a youth group that I worked with, and we would meet at night in an abandoned little house and sing. They taught me all kinds of, they introduced me to what was going on in the Black community musically, and I introduced them to some of these psychological ideas, and each of them kind of burst out of that Clarksdale environment and did worthwhile things with their lives. I was very happy about that. I came back, continued working in the movement, and was recruited to do they're called psychodrama. I was doing community psychodramas with in the Black community with police, welfare workers, people on the street, and that was extremely exciting. And I was doing it by the seat of my pants. I was just sort of making it up as I went.
Okay.
But it was very, very satisfying. Then Cheryl was her name. Cheryl and I moved to Oregon. And in Oregon, I got my master's degree. And the chairman of the counseling department said, "We have a very good conservative program. We want to bring you in to stir things up."
Okay.
I don't think he understood quite what he was getting into.
Okay.
But I stirred a lot of things up.
All right.
I did 4 simultaneous marathon groups. I did one in Davis, California at the university. And then a self-led group, which each of these groups had one leader. And that group was devoted to doing a presentation about the changes that they went through personally. Very, very interesting and fun. I then left Oregon and moved to South Carolina to study with this guy from India.
Okay.
And again, I learned a lot about Hindu philosophy and applied it in my life. I found it was something really useful to me and gave me great metaphorical lessons that I could apply as a therapist. I then left there and moved to Atlanta. I remarried, left there, and in that period of time, I started a practice. I actually worked for the State Department of Education, Evaluation, and some other thing.
Okay.
It was difficult for me because I was the director of a program evaluating Title I programs, which are programs designed for low-income groups and educational enhancement.
Okay.
But the funds were being used to build gymnasiums.
Huh.
And
Okay.
when I realized this, they told me that I couldn't do that anymore and that the schools were going to evaluate themselves. The only thing I contributed was I designed a very nice cover for the book,
Okay. Yeah,
but
right.
everything in it was a lie.
I see.
Um,
Huh.
so
Okay.
I got fired on the last day I could possibly be fired.
Huh.
So that was, I left there and took a job as the clinical director for a drug abuse program called Renewal House.
Okay.
That turned to be rife with all kinds of horrible things of relationships between the director, a woman, with other drug addicts, the selling of drugs in the program. And when I confronted that, I got fired from that one too.
Huh.
And immediately I went to a man named John Basmajian, who was the grandfather of what's called brainwave biofeedback or muscle biofeedback.
Okay.
He was the first person on earth to be able to train a single motor neuron to fire at will. And we established a wonderful friendship. And I called him and told him what had happened with getting fired from Renewal House. He was at a Christmas party at the office. He said, "Come here immediately." I went there. He introduced me to a woman named Dr. Carmilla Ganella, if you can believe that,
Okay.
who hired me immediately on a cancer grant, looking at cancer rehabilitation and how it operated and how to evaluate it. Then I started my own private practice and had a wonderful office, did a lot of work that I really enjoyed. I started using videotape focused feedback as a device for helping people learn about their own inner dialogue. That went on for 15 years. And then I was invited to Memphis, Tennessee to work with uh, groups of people at the Peabody Hotel,
Okay.
and was helping them develop their executive committee. I was doing executive development at that time.
And what year was this?
1990,
Okay.
95, somewhere in
All right.
there.
Okay.
Um, I'm not that great at keeping track of the
But yeah.
dates,
Yeah.
but
That's absolutely fine. Yeah.
it was full enough. My life was full enough.
Yeah.
Um, and now I remember being in a Greyhound bus going to Mississippi and coming through Memphis at a time when the downtown of Memphis looked like it had been bombed out.
Huh.
The Peabody Hotel was in total disarray. And I remember looking out the back window of this Greyhound bus and saying, "Boy, I'll never live here."
Yeah. Huh.
A few years later, I'm living in Memphis, Tennessee, and I've been here for 40 years.
Yeah.
So that goes to show you what plans are about.
Yeah.
Um, and so I had a practice here in Memphis. I've had lots of adventures with that as well. Done some teaching. I taught at Allen University, a historically black college in Columbia, South Carolina,
Okay.
where I got my doctorate. So that's roughly. I don't know if that's given you enough or
No,
too
that,
much
that that's
information.
very good. And that was doctorate in.
In counseling psychology
Okay. All right.
and human development.
Perfect. And as we mentioned, you specialize in marriage and family therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we talk about this on our show that it's an entire world of difference when we are talking about different parts of the world. Uh,
Yes.
uh, because the culture that you grow up in is what it's bred into you. Uh,
Habitualized.
Correct. You're right. That's the right term. And then you follow through on how you have been born and brought up. And
until you become conscious,
true,
until
very
you
true.
actually have the idea, I can affect my future instead of being a victim of it.
Hmm. Right. And over the decades and centuries, of course, because there are millions and billions of people living in the East, there are billions over in the West, everybody has their own way of doing things. When we call Westernites culture or Eastern culture, what I have found, because I come from the East, I come from India, I have found that there are so huge differences. Everybody is unique, of course, but when it comes to human, we are humans no matter what. If you or I are to be pinched, it will hurt no matter what. The way we do things, the way we interact with each other, the way we behave is totally different in West and the East. In the West, there is more individuality. We have a bigger house and smaller families. In the East, it will be a very small house with big, huge families. So it would be a father and the sons and daughters will wed out and go into other families, and the sons will bring in their wives into that single house in that family, and then there will be their kids. So the father, great grandfather, they would still live in the house, and that would become a family. Here, when we say family, we are talking about husband and wife only, period.
Well,
Children
and children and dogs
and
or
dogs.
pets.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, very true, very true. And when it gets more individualized, there are some that I have found that couples might say, "Hey, you know what? This is my phone. Don't don't try to touch it." There, so the importance is given to individuality as against an entire family. That, hey, I mean, there are 10 people sleeping in one room. That is how, unfortunately or fortunately, there are pros and cons. But you, as a counselor, as a therapist who has dedicated his life into educating people of how things should be, what needs to be done, the changes that they need to bring about in their personal thinking and in their way they behave with others and treat others. I would like you to talk about that.
I think something that gets skipped over in
Hmm.
that description is what I call the poison of relationship.
Okay,
This poison is called win-lose thinking.
I see. Hmm.
That is what causes one person to say, it's my phone, not
Perfect.
your phone.
Very good. Very good.
And the term,
Good point.
whose side is it? Well,
Hmm.
she has, her side says da da da, and his side says, well, the fact of the matter is, they are both believing in a framework that relies on the idea that I can become better by making you worse. It's judging, evaluating, comparing.
Mm.
These are all dangerous, poisonous attitudes
Beautifully put. Yes.
put into a relationship.
Hmm.
Then everything follows from that.
Hmm.
Also, there are more enlightened families that now realize that the model should be cooperation, not competition.
Hmm.
So here, everybody has a vote, including the smallest children. They have an input into decisions made within the family, and everyone is being considered, not for the purpose of control, but for the purpose of accentuating and accelerating the personal growth and development and the family growth and development.
How nice. So, um, I really love what you said, and I think that that needs to be inculcated in our culture, in everybody. I mean, because of course, I mean, I know that to err is human. Everybody makes mistake, but for each and every single person to first understand that, you know what, that is a mistake, is the biggest step in for us to come together. And you so nicely put what needs to be done. So you mentioned that there, yeah, there is, from this to that there is a gap, and you very well put it, because you live it. You see marriages and families falter, and you help them come together.
And executive groups, sales groups, different kinds of business groups that either they do, oftentimes they can succeed financially for a period of time, but they kind of eat themselves alive by using competition as a tool against one another.
Mm-hmm.
So my work is helping people to see that there are a whole other set of attitudes from which you can come
Mm-hmm.
to work with people to create life around you. And that is acceptance, forgiveness, and gratitude. If you come at the world from these
Very
three
true.
places,
Mm-hmm.
you are going to be much more accepting of the diversity of life.
Mm-hmm.
You will be more forgiving and releasing. Or as a friend of mine said, your problem is you're human, and humans make mistakes. A
Exactly.
mistake is designed only in this work as a learning device.
Exactly. Yes.
It is not an indictment.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make you worse or better than
Or
anybody else.
me, yeah,
Right.
worse or better. And the idea is to learn using that as a learning tool. That first, I mean, it is first for us to realize that, okay, this is what my pattern has been in my life. This is how I have behaved. These are my personality traits, and this is how I have done. And for me, if I'm thinking that, hey, I am good at what I do, I have been successful in my life. But if I do not realize that there are some personality traits that have not helped me or are not correct, it is for me to first realize that,
They
okay,
don't bring you peace.
exactly. So, what is it that will bring you love, peace, and harmony? Is to be harmonious with your surroundings, and the loved ones and your family, friends, and acquaintances are your surroundings. So, for you to be harmonious, you have to see to it that you are doing things not just for you, not being selfish enough, but being good for everybody else. Now, if I were to have a devil's advocate, I would say when you put that missing portion, somebody might say, "Oh, that you are talking about a utopian thing. That is not possible." But it is so much possible.
It's a direction that's worthwhile pursuing,
Exactly. Yeah.
and there is no end to it. If your experience, your spiritual experience, and I don't mean religious, but
Correct.
that sense of what is good in you, we teach who we are, not what we say.
Mm-hmm.
And in my work, I teach people to become more and more aware of the language, the nonverbal language, which is probably 65 to 80% of the impact of all communication.
Very true.
I never in my practice use the term personality
Okay.
because it creates the idea that this is like a trait or a brain path
Okay.
that's indelibly imprinted on you, and
Okay.
you act out on it over and over. But in my work, there is nothing permanent about personality.
Mm-hmm.
It is simply the habits you developed in order to survive childhood.
Mm-hmm.
Our goal is not to help people just survive childhood, but to thrive, that the family unit, the family group,
Mm-hmm.
has the effect of raising everybody up.
Okay. So, my use of the term personality and personality traits is based on personality tests like the Brigmeyers and so many. There are so many official personality tests that are
Yes.
conducted even in companies to find out what personality each has, and then based on his or her personality, then maybe sometimes the manager, supervisor, or the general manager, or the president then realizes, oh, that is what his personality trait is. So I need to understand, sometimes assign work to him based on what his likings are. But you have given a very good awakening, so to say, that you do not say or you do not use the word personality and
Only because
personality
of the way
traits.
people interpret it.
Interpret, correct.
They think that
I
you're
got it.
talking about
Yeah,
something that's permanent, and now everybody has to adapt to that,
right.
including you. In my work, everything is negotiable.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a habit pattern that involves being imperious, overloading, being on top of and better than,
Yes.
that is a habit you learned in childhood
Mm-hmm.
about how you how you move in the world.
Very true.
And if
Very true.
I only have one diagnostic code that I use,
Okay.
and that's post-traumatic stress disorder, which originates in the family, not just by a horrible event that happened,
Okay.
but the way in which it is couched in the life of that child.
And a series of events throughout the lifetime.
All of these things, and remember that when things happen to you as a small child, they're not just scary, they're terrifying. If you look at a small child, when he's angry, he's always all anger.
Hmm.
When he's sad,
Yes.
he's all sad.
Hmm.
Later on, he learns all of these intellectual divisions, things for him to watch for and be able to control. But when you're 3 years old and horrible things are going on in front of you, you hear them as if you've got a megaphone turned to your ear, and it's accentuating everything coming into it.
Very true. So when we are talking about these traits, and when I do not want to get into the intricacies of any special client or anything like that,
Sure.
but in general, when you come across such cases that are dealing with the idea that what I have done is right, because hey, I mean, come on, not realizing ourselves that what we have done is a mistake in the first place, but then say, hey, how come you are behaving like this? But not saying, hey, well, I shouldn't have done that in the first place. And your action or your reaction to that or your response to that. Yeah, so reaction is like giving it right then there, but response is after waiting and thinking and then responding. So there's a big difference between reacting and responding. Immaterial of that, if there is a lack of understanding that hey, I am not wrong, what can be done to, because I believe that if we do not even know that there is a problem, then there cannot never ever be a solution to that. So the first
Yeah.
step is realizing and understanding that there is some problem, and then understanding that problem and then overcoming that. So what would your suggestion and your therapy thing would be
All
to
right.
overcome that?
This is huge.
Okay.
Okay. You cannot, our goal in this work,
Mm-hmm.
as it is with all true therapy,
Mm-hmm.
is to help people become more in touch with an inner energy
Okay.
that leads toward the good, that leads toward love,
Mm-hmm.
peace, acceptance, forgiveness, gratitude, all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And if your goal is to not just see the light, but to actually be the light,
Beautiful.
if that's your goal,
Mm-hmm.
you cannot get there by analyzing the darkness. That's
Okay, so
huge.
I want to get this very, very clear, unequivocally clear, is that you are saying that you do not want to decipher what is wrong,
Yes,
but you want to see to it that there are steps in a relationship that should be taken in a positive direction.
absolutely.
Elaborate. So when you say do not decipher the
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 darkness.
dark, so tell me what exactly are you talking about?
The diagnostic statistical manual that all psychologists and psychiatrists use,
Mm-hmm.
and medical doctors, I believe, as well,
Mm-hmm.
says the medical model is let's find out what's wrong with you.
Okay.
And then we're going to go after it with a pill, with a therapy, with something, and attempt to fix it, to modify it externally
Okay.
with the idea, often just a hope, that it's going to have some impact on some inner mechanism, which we're not actually looking at. We're looking at behavior,
Huh.
but we're
Okay.
not looking at what's actually happening internally.
Okay.
Oh, you're both. right. So this idea. Quiet. Sorry. All right. The idea in the medical model is search out what's wrong. Do not come to my office until you have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And, or if you don't have a problem, then you have some kind of disorder, some
Mm-hmm.
sickness,
Mm-hmm.
or premature death.
Mm-hmm.
That's one half of the spectrum. The other half, which is largely ignored, well, now it's beginning to be more popularized, is called high-level wellness. I learned this 60 years ago, 50 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
A man named John Travis, an MD in California.
Mm-hmm.
I did a workshop with him. He said, this other part of the spectrum is high-level wellness, which starts with education, learning more about how things are operating,
Mm-hmm.
personal growth,
Mm-hmm.
which is learning how to accelerate that inner growth
Mm-hmm.
that produces new results in your life,
Mm-hmm.
ones that are meaningful and helpful to you.
Mm-hmm.
Or the next step is a feeling of what's called self-actualization.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Self-actualization
Yeah.
was at that time Abraham Maslow's idea.
Yeah.
I'm thinking you can edit this out.
That's okay. Go ahead. Yeah.
All right. The next, I love tabla.
Yeah. The blind sitar. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So this piece of it is not just self-actualization, but it has to do with your participating in the
Mm-hmm.
world. And it's hinted at in Alcoholics Anonymous. The 12th step is having achieved a certain level of clarity.
Mm-hmm.
Now give it away,
Mm-hmm.
give it to others.
Mm-hmm.
And my belief is that the way that you know that you are loved and that you possess love
Mm-hmm.
is by giving it away.
Yeah.
When you do that,
Mm-hmm.
you cannot do it without possessing it.
Okay.
Okay? So these are all steps in high level development. This is ultimately not just a goal exactly, but laying out a menu of how far would you like to go in your life
Mm-hmm.
toward not just self-actualization,
Mm-hmm.
but participation in the world in which you bring that self-actualization and share it with others.
Right. And just thinking about the medical practice, I'm thinking that what you're talking about is instead of an MD, the better one is having osteopathic medicine or osteopathic approach of taking care of yourself first, getting yourself, instead of going to say, I am not feeling my, this is hurting, my that is hurting, and then going to a doctor, instead of taking precautions of healing ourselves first. So
Not just precautions, but aspirations, because it's not just coping with the world. It's actually going beyond that to being the love, peace, joy that you are, that you already are. And I call it your inner gyroscope. It's this part of you
mm-hmm.
that is automatically rights itself when you allow it to show up in your life. And that's when people are tempted to do something, and there's a small part of them at that moment
Mm-hmm.
that knows that's not what I want to be doing. And that part says, here's something else you can do that will lead you toward peace.
Very nice.
And I train my clients to ask this one question whenever they're confronted with a decision.
Mm-hmm.
What will bring me peace in this situation?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like Occam's razor. It just cuts through everything. Do you want this to lead toward greater joy, love, and peace?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you want it to be judging, evaluating, and comparing, which always lead you down?
Mm-hmm. Very nice. I think that ought to be the crux of a relationship where the way we teach and behave and act with each other. People come to you, your clients come to you because they have issues. They have not overcome these things amongst themselves. How often do you think, or in terms of a percentage, does it happen in life, even with people you think or you know or you have read research articles, that out in life, how many times does it happen that people do not follow these things? There might be 1 billionth of a people who are coming to you as your clients, but how much do you think is out there that people need to overcome this and they need to unlearn several things to learn these kinds of techniques and put them into their
They
life?
don't have to unlearn.
Okay.
They have to replace. If you have a habit that you know is dragging you down, you may
Okay.
even be aware of it, but still doing it. You're still
Okay.
addicted to it.
Okay. So you think that there are habits that people do not realize that they have, and
They
they keep on.
blame it on, they project onto other people and then get mad at them.
Okay. All
That's a
right.
big piece too.
It is very true. Very true. So, how many people out in the community, in terms of percentage? I'm just a guesstimate,
How many people?
who are like that out in this world, who do not know of this. There could be. I'm asking.
They're busy analyzing the darkness. They're busy finding out who's wrong, who's didn't do this, who's what lack will be the result. They're all and universally all about fear. And the only other alternative to fear is love. They are reciprocally inhibitive. They cannot occur in the same place. So if you are committed to love, you may not understand love, but if your fundamental intention is to be more loving, to be more accepting, to be more forgiving, to be more grateful for life, then that will produce results in your life that will bring you more peace.
Beautiful, beautiful. I believe that everybody needs this teaching. Um, Everybody
They
has
don't
to
think they
have.
need it.
That is the problem. That is the problem, and I think that there has to be Dr. Weiss in everybody's life, a Krishna for guiding you to the right path, taking you.
And to give you a way of seeing the world that brings you peace.
Mhm.
And when Krishna teaches, he tells Arjuna, this is your dharma. This is what you're here on earth to do these various things, which include self-development, growth, personal experience, um, self-actualization. These are all things that you're doing for yourself that automatically benefit everyone you come in contact with, sometimes unknowingly. You may be affecting people. I've had people come up to me that I haven't seen in 15 years, and they'll say, the other day I remembered what you said about da da da.
Yeah.
And there's something part of me that just feels eternally grateful that something that I've
Mhm.
done has been useful to somebody
Yes.
enough that they're still carrying my voice in their mind and it brings them peace.
Yeah, that is
That's a
very
reward.
rewarding. Very
Yeah.
rewarding. Very true. So, Dr. Wise, I know in this short time you have opened my eyes in some matters, and shed a whole lot of light, bright light, and I know that our listeners will share the exact same feeling. And I want to tell them that we are going to have Dr. Weiss on our show for many, many times, and we are going to talk about these wonderful things, the things that we ought to have inculcated in our lives but have not, but we need to. But the fact is that how we do it, why we do it, and why we should actually do it, not only for our own growth but for the growth of our family members, for our loved ones, and for our community, at large.
Our planet.
Our planet, very true. It is so essential. We are going to have Dr. Weiss talk about it in different shows that will be coming up soon. But I really and truly am humbled by your knowledge, experience, and expertise, and I thank you so much.
As they say in AA, it's not me, it's what comes through me.
Yeah.
And that creates a genuine humility that can accept all kinds of things.
Very true. I have heard that, and thank you for repeating that. Thank you for also bringing it back to me that no matter what I do in promoting all the good that I am attempting to do is being done through me.
Yes.
It is not me at all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to listen to our other shows and also Dr. Wise. We are going to have him on different interviews. But until the next show, have a great time. Enjoy your time. Promote the message of love, peace, and harmony. If you have any questions, give us a call at 901 849 DEEP. That is 849 3337. You can also write to us at sgp97@hotmail.com. Have a great time. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
And bye bye.